What is up, ladies and gentlemen? You're watching Criclytics Man versus Machine, and today we're going to be talking about the Battle Royale. It's Royal Challengers Bangalore up against the Rajasthan Royals. They've played 22 T20s up against each other so far, 10 apiece in terms of victories and 2 results, so something has got to give. Yep, we're going to be previewing the RCB versus RR game right now, right here on cricket.com. Don't go anywhere because we have Mark Butcher joining us in this preview. And Mark, of course, reckon that RCB will be hailed champions by the end of IPL 2021. RCB, of course, sitting pretty in the top, 3 from 3. They shift base to Chennai now, though. Butch, before we get into the questions and whatnot, why do you think RCB are going to win this year's IPL?
Well, the law of averages, surely, says that a team that has flattered to deceive for so many years will eventually make it to the summit. Joking aside, I think they've just got a bowling lineup that looks like it might be able to handle itself now. Also, the fact that they're not playing all their home games at Chinnaswamy, whereby the roll of a dice or the toss of a coin can make so much of a difference. It means that they're in with a shout, and that they've got off to a flying start. They won 3 from 3. They're not having to play catch up in the final weeks to qualify in the top 4. Well, at least they're not at the moment. And that confidence from winning tight games, from defending small totals as they've done in the recent past, is something that they've not really had to call upon before. Generally speaking, if they didn't score 220, they weren't going to win the game because they couldn't defend them. So lots of things in their favour at the moment, but there's a long way to go.
Absolutely, I think you've made some pertinent points there, but what about some pertinent calls pre-match in terms of RCB selections? Now, there's a problem of plenty, maybe. They went in with 3 overseas players, the first time ever they've done that in the IPL, the last time out. Typically, Wankhede, of course, suits the Pacers, right? So would you chop and change on what's been a brilliant 11 so far?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you would say that there wouldn't be much need to change because the last pitch they played in Chennai was a belter. They made 200 and completely and utterly outplayed the opposition in that case. However, the fact that they only use 3 overseas players gives them an option, doesn't it? And I think that perhaps moving to Wankhede Stadium, they might think about bringing in Dan Christian. That gives them a little bit more all-round power. Seam bowling, yes. Great hitting, terrific fielder as well. Remember, he took that brilliant diving catch as a sub-fielder on for Glenn Maxwell last time out. Or they've got Kane Richardson as an option as well. So, I mean, at the moment, they're making changes, and this is the beauty of it for RCB. They're making changes from a position of strength rather than trying to play catch-up, chopping and changing things, desperate to try and find the right formula. The formula looks good, and they can add to it with good options going into this one.
Yeah, I mean, for an RCB perspective, that surely should be just what the doctor ordered for, I guess, in terms of going ahead, especially for Mike Hesson and Simon Katich and Virat Kohli. Before we move on to the RRs, given the fact that Wankhede, of course, is a better batting track, Butch, would you like to see someone like Finn Allen, who, of course, is a replacement coming into the season, but that bloke from New Zealand has phenomenal numbers?
Yeah, he does, but again, I don't really see a reason to change anything for them at the moment. RCB have got themselves off to the type of start where they can make changes tailored to the opposition and the conditions that they find themselves in. There is no need for them to make wild changes just because they feel like it. You do that when you're losing. When you're winning, you try and keep things as simple as possible. Keep them as settled as you possibly can, and to make the odd change depending on your conditions. And that's it. That's the formula for it.
Yeah, and the fact that they've been churning out 200 scores in Chennai, wait out and watch in Mumbai what these guys are going to do, especially Virat Kohli and AB de Villiers and Glenn Maxwell, who, of course, all, by the way, are averaging good numbers in the Wankhede. Let's move on to what can counter that with the Rajasthan Royals, because before I get on to the nitty-gritties, you, as an English supporter and a former England cricketer, why aren't you not a Royals fan? Because we've seen the whole bandwagon of English cricketers supporting the Pinks.
I don't know, actually. I think probably because of my time as correspondent for Sky Sports over there in the IPL. Some of the best memories and the best nights at the cricket grounds and outside the cricket grounds were in Bangalore. So I've always had a soft spot for RCB, and the fact that they are the fact that they're the team that everybody likes to dump on because they've not won it yet makes me like them even more. So that's why.
But we love you here from Bangalore. We can assure you that, and I think you've made a lot of fans already. Let's move on to, of course, RR though, because talking about the Pacers, and they've gone with a similar trend in the last couple of games with the three left armers in Sakaria, Unathkat and Mustafizur. Do you think they'll stick with that ploy?
Yeah, it's interesting because we know the effective left arm seam in T20 in all white ball cricket actually is a very good one for the bowling team. I know that left armers historically have had quite a lot of success against Virat Kohli. Getting him to drive at wide full balls and nicking them behind to the keeper or the odd slip if they're in. So it's a good ploy to have. The one question I would have for Rajasthan Royals is, and I know they don't have Jofra Archer to sort of mix things up a little bit, is that if everybody is bowling the same, do you lose the advantage of having the left armer as a bit of something different? If everyone bats left-handed, there's no difference. There's nothing for the bowling team to worry about. They prepare for left-handers only. And so then similarly with the bowlers. So, I mean, look, Rajasthan would be making changes from not a position of strength. They've won 1 from 3. And they have a couple of options, possibly. Shreyas Gopal, leg spinner, could come into the side here, somebody that has a good record against de Villiers and Kohli. And you've also got Andrew Tye sitting on the bench. Andrew Tye, wherever he's been, whether that's playing for Gloucestershire in the Blast, whether that's playing for, I think, Sunrisers, he's had goes at before in the IPL. He has taken big bags of wickets and is a master at the death, etc. So if you wanted to change that up, maybe give Mustafizur a bit of a rest, keep the other two left armers in. You've got Andrew Tye waiting in the wings.
Great couple of shots, not just with Andrew Tye, but Shreyas Gopal as well. And correctly you call with Kedar Jadhav coming back into the thick of things for SR8. So who knows, Butch, maybe you're the next soothsayer out there in the cricketing world. Let's, of course, put you to the test before you get to the test in terms of the robot Criclytics Man versus Machine. I want to ask you about a particular 1-minute verdict here, and it's regarding the Rajasthan Royals captain, Sanju Samson. Now, it's extremities for him, all right. He, of course, blows hot and blows cold. He either gets single digits or goes on to get 70 plus. But if you were in the thick of things, especially in Kumar Sangakkara's shoes, what would be your advice for Sanju Samson?
Well, I mean, Sanju he gets out quite often within the first 10 deliveries or so, particularly against seam. And if I was Kumar Sangakkara, particularly the sort of player that Kumar Sangakkara was, I would be just saying, just give yourself a little bit of time. So talented as a ball striker and as a player. Get used to the conditions a little bit. Give the bowlers a tiny bit of respect when you first walk out there. You know, that Sam Curran knocked him over with a short ball in the last game. Spliced it straight to mid-on. He hadn't given himself a chance to have a look at the pace the ball was coming off or anything. It was just kind of crash bang from the minute you step out. Give yourself 6 balls. Give yourself a little bit of a chance. Treat the opposition bowlers with a little bit of respect and then disrespect them totally once you get yourself in, which is what he is so good at.
I think you've summed it up quite perfectly, because I've kind of spoken to some friends outside India watching the IPL, because they give you just that perspective, and it's just what you said, crash bang and wallop, which sums up Sanju Samson. But fingers crossed for Rajasthan Royals fans, of course, that isn't the case going forward this year. But hopefully against RCB he continues that trend. Let me sneakily put that out there before we move into the Criclytics Man versus Machine. I'm going to start with the batsman first. Plain and simple, Virat Kohli is what the Machine reckons, Butch. You agree with the Machine here?
I'm afraid I do. I mean, again, he's been quiet. I mean, all the other batsmen that you'd think about picking are all wicket keepers as well. I've learned the game now. So you'd imagine, wouldn't you, on what should be a flattish pitch in Mumbai, although these pitches are starting to get worn now, that the skipper will find some form and make some runs. So I'm gonna go with Criclytics on that one.
Are you sure you don't want to change your choice? Because there are a couple of course, options in terms of the Rajasthan Royals outfit. There's Manan Vora, who can, of course, pack a punch up top. And the others, in terms of RCB, Devdutt Padikkal. Any ishara for the youngsters? Are you going to stick with the captain, think he's going to come good?
No, I'm going to go with the captain. He's due.
I was going to trick you over there, but you've stuck to your guns. All right, let's see if you're going to stick your bowler as well, because remember, it's a change in venue for RCB. They might get in a host of options, like you said, Kane Richardson, Navdeep Saini's been waiting in the wings. But Criclytics, get this, Mark, reckons, yep, you guessed it, the purple cap holder, Harshal Patel.
Yes, and I I tend to agree, but I'm gonna defer from the expert here, and I'm gonna go for Yuzvendra Chahal, because I think, and again this is kind of making a guess from South London, that RCB's batting is in great form, right? If they end up batting first and putting a big total on the board, then Rajasthan Royals are going to be in big pressure to keep up with the rate. The pitch is probably going to turn as it did CSK Mumbai, and that brings Chahal right into the game. There's a lot of ifs in that, but I'm behind, so I need to take a big punt here.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for just a second, because Yuzvendra Chahal's numbers, of course, because he's a spinner, he's of course going to get in terms of the wickets, but off late he hasn't had good numbers. And at the Wankhede, he averages about 35 with the ball. Do you want to reconsider your choice?
No, well, I mean, the averages don't matter, do they? It's just wickets. So I'm not reconsidering anything, no.
A strike rate of 24.6 is what my producer tells me.
I'm still not changing.
Okay.
And as long as Chahal doesn't win, then I'm fine.
We've tried to make the butcher budge, but it wasn't to be. Let's see if he moves ahead with his options in terms of course, the all-rounders. Any guesses for what Criclytics has gone for here?
Well, I'm guessing he's gone for Glenn Maxwell because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, Miller, Maxwell. There's not a massive amount of choice there, really. And Maxwell just looks in red-hot form.
There's also Chris Morris.
Sorry, not Miller. I meant Morris, yeah. It's all the M's and South Africans. I meant Morris. But Maxwell's the man. Maxwell over Morris and Miller. Give me another M.
What about Washington Sundar? Or what about, for example, Rahul Tewatia? Considering they have more game time, Butch, do you think you'd take a punt on them?
I was thinking that Washington Sundar might be a man to make way in this game. If RCB decide to bolster their fast bowling lineup, it's unlikely. I think Washi will still play, but I still think that it's going to be Glenn Maxwell is the man to watch.
Okay, Glenn Maxwell, you're going to go with Criclytics here as well. Let's see what you have to offer in your wicket keepers, because Sanju Samson is what the Criclytics thinks right now, at least pre-match, is going to outscore AB de Villiers. I don't see that happening, but you agree with me here, surely, not the machine, right?
I do. I agree with you. I've gone with AB. We know he doesn't keep wicket. We know that doesn't matter in the game, so we're going for AB de Villiers.
Okay, AB de Villiers, and just tell me more about the man, because he doesn't play cricket for South Africa anymore. He turns up at the IPL and he absolutely rocks a gig. He's
well, they call him a freak, don't they? I mean, he just is that talented. I know he's been in talks as well with Mark Boucher and the South African camp about potentially being available to play in the World T20. Yeah, and world cricket would love to see him, that's for sure. It would certainly give South Africa an edge that they've not had in their white ball cricket for quite some time. So yeah, I mean, I hope to see him. The world game has got stars, but then there are those people that are above stars. They're kind of the mega stars of the game, and he's one of them.
Yep, absolutely, and we wish to see AB more in RCB colours as well, from a Bangalore fan perspective, that is. Speaking of a result, hopefully Bangalore get across the line, but that's none of my business. That's about you guys in terms of Criclytics and Mark Butcher. Mark, I'll let you have the prediction first, because 57% is a win predictor. I won't tell you who it is.
Well, I'm guessing he's going to go with RCB. I mean, Rajasthan look a bit of a mess, or at least they did last time out. And so for that, I think that RCB are winners here. I think they're running hot. It would take them running into one of the bigger, or one of the sort of more fancy teams, perhaps for me to change my mind on that. But I reckon Rajasthan are finding RCB at a bad time for Rajasthan Royals. So RCB winners for me.
But can you entirely rule them out? Let me just word for the Rajasthan Royals fans out here, because they of course will say that they played a Delhi Capitals at the Wankhede and they turned it up, and Morris of course stole the victory.
Yeah, I mean, and in the match, the only match that they've won so far, they've kind of, have been have managed to put runs on the board. I mean, since then the batting has been poor. They've left too much for some of the hitters down the order to do as well. You know, Morris and co. Morris, who you spend all that money on, who's made all that money in auctions over the years in the IPL, coming in as low as 8 or 9. I think, you know, again, they're going to have to be a little bit bolder, a little bit smarter about the way they go about things if they're going to turn RCB over tonight.
Yeah, I mean, let's see how that pans out. But I think from an RCB perspective, they'd like to make it 4-zip going into, of course, that business end of the tournament, which is still early days, but it's always good signs not to play catch-up cricket. We'll leave it there, Butch, but before we go, we have to, of course, get your fantasy captains and vice-captains pick. Let me just tell you, since you've been with us here at cricket.com, you've not got these right very often, and so is Criclytics. Fair play to both of you all. So if you guys do get it right, which is you or the machine, we'll give you a bonus point, which could take your tally up in the grander scheme of things. So call wisely. RCB are out. Vice captain and captain, please.
Okay, I'm going for AB de Villiers as captain and Josh Buttler as vice captain.
I like it, the Wicket-keepers union, even though you've probably never kept, I'm guessing.
Yes, exactly. Well, I have actually. Yeah, I've kept in first-class cricket before.
Really? An auxiliary wicket-keeper?
Yeah. Yes, exactly that.
All right, with that, we'll leave it with Mark Butcher. It's again fun picking his mind about the IPL, of course, which he sees from a distance back in the UK, which is, 13, 14 degrees and all cold and nice sunshine as well. We'd love that right now in India, but we'll leave that. Join us at cricket.com for much more, and join us on the social media handles as well, because there's plenty of it, from stats and the numbers, and of course, this man, Mark Butcher too. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you soon.